But you see, I know. And don't tell me and don't ask me to explain exactly how I know and how much I know. Because I have never shared this before, but I have been contacted. That's very difficult to talk about. I've been abducted. I don't look upon it as an abduction. I look upon it as an invitation, and I've been aboard some of those ships several times. I've had even friends come up to me and say, oh my God. A friend up in Sedona, a doctor, a dentist, he said, I was abducted. And he says, when I came to up there, I look around and I see you standing over in the corner talking to some of these guys. And I said, well, I'm not surprised, because I've been aboard the ship several times.
Do you have conscious recall?
Oh, yes. You know, no hypnotic regression needed. When that happens to you, it makes such an imprint on you that you don't need to be hypnotically regressed to remember. I mean, it's there. It's like a scar. It's there. No, I've been aboard several times, and I suspect much of the information I've got about the depth of the societies and the civilizations and the cultures that exist out there, that makes me know how glorious some of them are. And then I look around this mud heap that we're living in here, and I think, knowing what it could be and what it's not, and hopefully what it might be. I touched a nerve here. I touched a nerve in that I have shared some things with you that I have seldom shared with anybody except the lovely lady I lived with. I don't think I've ever publicly on an interview or anywhere ever shared the fact that I have been aboard their ships. Because if I had ever done that, it would have opened a Pandora's box that I was not prepared to deal with. Mm-hmm. Now, she has a different story. She talks to them and meets with them all the time. But that's another story. No, I've shared with you this afternoon a couple of little things.
Well, we're honored.
Why I feel so strongly that this truth, that we're not alone, we've never been alone, that we are intimately involved in this interrelationship. We are family with them. And yes, we are in a zoo, and they are, in a degree, to an extent, are zookeepers. Now, you don't share that with everybody out there. Old Jerry Falwell, wherever he may be right now, God bless his soul. No, he's not there, Marcia. There is no such place as that. She's pointing down. No, hell doesn't exist. Hell is of our own making.
Yeah, I believe that.
But there are people out there that I spoke in Dallas one time. That's what we call Bible Belt. It's right in the middle of Bible Belt in Texas, you know. And I laid some pretty hairy things out there in front of about 800 people one afternoon. And I looked at people's faces and I saw their eyebrows rise and their mouths drop and little old ladies going, you know. And after it was all over with, I looked down the aisle and here comes this little rotund, round little Baptist fundamentalist minister with his Bible under his arm, and he's heading for me. And I thought, oh God, we're going to be rolling on the floor here in a minute, because I've shared some pretty blunt things here for that group over there in the Bible Belt. Got the shock of my life. This little Baptist minister comes up, leaps up onto the stage. It must have been 250 pounds of, you know, comes up on the stage, throws his arms around me, and as I said, we're going to roll on the floor here, and he's going to beat me half to death with his Bible. He hugs me, kisses me, and says, oh, Brother Dean, you said it the way it needs to be said. and I was in a total state of shock. But that's only happened once.
That's amazing.
It was an interesting experience for me.
That's great.
But it encouraged me to continue to be outspoken and blunt. And as I've done, as I said, my last presentation in San Jose, I laid it out pretty bluntly, pretty close to what I've shared with you this afternoon, only not entirely. And I don't speak publicly anymore. I've been invited many times. I've turned down invitations. I've turned down a trip abroad, another conference up in Lachlan. But this is probably my last interview. And I've given you a lot of garbage here. I've given you a lot of material. If within that mass of stuff I've shared, if you can find one or two items that are worth keeping, that's fine. But as I said, I have a love-hate relationship with the human species, and I just know what we could be and what we're not. I learned years ago, before I retired in '76, the government knew not only everything the shape study had in 64, the government knew all of that and more years and years before. They just were not sharing it with anybody.
Right.
We were confronting and dealing with intelligences from other planets, other star systems, other galaxies, and some of the contacts we've had have been intelligence from other dimensions. And I'm all fascinated by the work of Michio Kaku, this brilliant scientist in New York, who is a physicist who is involved in string theory.
Yes.
And I think their latest conclusion is that they concluded there are at least 11 different dimensions. And I've always said that death, when we die, the soul, which I believe is an immortal living creature in itself, simply goes over to the next dimension, which we look upon as death. Well, it isn't death. It's just a higher form of life. Yeah. And I've been making my plans recently to make the transition. As Marcia said, don't get up alone to go tonight. I haven't bugged her quite enough yet.
Well, I hope that you stay with us for quite a while longer, because you're a wonderful, enlightened being to be around.
Question.
I have one last question, and then I'll let, if Bill has a question, he can go ahead. 2012, have you been told, either by your military contacts, people in the deep black secret government, and or by your alien contacts, anything about that period of time?
It isn't the end of anything. Mm-hmm. It's the beginning. My conclusion is, and I have not been given blah, 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 this is what's going to happen. I've concluded that it involves probably major contact. I mean major. If you think the Phoenix Lights, which I'm sure you're familiar with,
sure.
You're familiar with the Hudson Valley incident some years back, mm-hmm. which makes the Phoenix Lights look like nothing, as I said, small potatoes. I think that these exposures, these flyovers, are going to probably gently continue to increase, and I think in 2012 somehow, I anticipate, and I hope to hang around maybe that long, if I can get my arthritis to settle down, I think it's major contact. I think we're going to have it whether we like it, whether we're ready for it or not. I think that by that time, we will be so close to destroying ourselves with a thermonuclear exchange that they're going to step into the zoo and put the orangutans over here and the baboons over here and the chimps over here, and they're going to say, now look,